Okay, hello, and welcome back to the Low Bros Show. If you haven't watched season 2 of Stranger Things, number one, how dare you? Number two, how? And number three, you probably don't want to watch this yet because we're gonna spoil the F out of it. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Halloween may be over, but I've still got my Halloween lamp on because I'm in the spooky mood to talk about Stranger Things.
Yeah, and Christmas is already stealing a lot of Halloween's thunder nowadays, so Halloween can have some November.
Yeah. Let's do this. So let's start talking about viewing experience.
Yeah, how did you watch it?
So I want to say, first of all, I went in avoiding reviews, but I decided to skim just two. And those two reviews, I read it just long enough to see that their main complaint was that Stranger Things had the same problem that most unnecessary sequels had. And
what's that?
just that it's unnecessary. So when I started watching season 2, I went in with the expectation like, oh, this is probably going to be like Men in Black 2 or Iron Man 2, like something I'll enjoy, but it won't live up to the first. And I am so glad that my expectations were blown away.
Not at all.
By this.
Not at
it's
all.
not even close, like to that comparison. I watched it in 3 days in three episode sittings. So first 3 episodes on Friday, second 3 Saturday, last 3 Sunday. How was your experience?
I think I did the same. Didn't watch any on Friday, so it was 3 Saturday, 3 Sunday, 3 Monday. But then my roommates were all a day behind, so I watched the last 6 episodes twice and was totally thrilled about it.
So I watched the first 3 episodes for a second time today. So we've watched the show 3 times between the two of us now. So this new series has, they're playing it like a sequel, and they decided to throw in a bunch of new characters. We've got Dr. Owens, who I was pleasantly surprised by. I was expecting him to be nice but secretly evil. And I was like, yeah, that'd be a cool twist on Dr. Brenner, who had basically no personality. But he turned out to be a genuinely nice guy, if a little bit maybe incompetent by the end of the season. And I thought Billy fit his role of douche really well. I hated Billy so much in a good way.
I think Billy was a good character. We needed because I mean, there's the shadow monster, but there also has to be a human antagonist for the characters, and I think he was great. He served his purpose. I don't know whether there's really much you can do with him going forward, but I mean, I guess look at what they did with Steve, which I think is something the Duffer Brothers do really well. Is they are really good at letting characters transform out of tropes.
Yeah,
and you get to see the evil people's perspective, or the people you perceive to be evil.
Yeah,
and there's depth and nuance to them.
Definitely. Yeah, I really like Dr. Owens and Billy as new characters, but they're like the minor new characters. Let's talk about Max and Bob.
I just have a lot of feelings about Max.
Yeah.
She's done nothing wrong. I think she's a fine character. I think she, for dramatic purposes, needs to be there because the boys need a female presence around, and the love triangle between her and Dustin and Lucas is interesting, and the conflict between Lucas and Dustin is interesting, but I just don't want her there. I just don't really have room in my heart for her. I love all of the original characters, the OG 5. I really wanted to like her. I just couldn't. I just kind of feel like they had season 2, but like, can they just move again?
I don't know. I think part of the issue is she has a lot of the same issues Lucas had in the first season. And one, that it was hard to define who Lucas was other than the skeptic. The one kid who didn't really believe what was going on. And that was tough for audiences to buy, because not only did they know that supernatural stuff was going on, I think when I watched season 1, hey, you have a girl who's floating things around with her mind. Maybe you should listen to her. Maybe she has a clue on what is going on. It's a little harder for the audience to believe this kid would be like, oh, I don't trust her because reasons. And so filling the role of skeptic in a or where everyone knows supernatural stuff is going down is tough because it sets you up as an antagonist to the people you know are trying to fill things in. And she doesn't really have much going on besides that, which is a shame because I agree she should be there. I welcome another female presence on the show. I think it's good that the boys have someone to bounce off of, and I do like the Lucas, Dustin, Max love triangle because I think it's funny because junior high love triangles are like least important thing in the whole world, and that's why it's great to have that in the show.
Right.
Is like these kids worry about this stuff while also worrying about the literal end of the world.
She makes perfect sense from for dramatic structure. I don't like that about it.
Yeah,
I actually, when 11 didn't shake her hand at the end, I was like saying,
I gotta ask, what about Bob though?
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
It was like I mean, it was when he comes on screen the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Sean Astin, it's a Goonie, which like with the him asking if there was pirate treasure at the X. It was just, I don't know why it works, but it works in this show. Those just like very obvious jabs, cultural references. I think it's the power of nostalgia. But Bob as a character, he was really great. Yet another character who, like at the onset, you're like, I don't think I like this guy. He's just really annoying, and he's too much. But by the end of his time on the show, it was like, oh no, I really don't want him to go.
Yeah, he was genuinely compassionate. He cared a lot for these kids. He was
Joyce.
And Joyce, he was a nice guy. I was kind of predicting he was going to go just because he was like, I'm making plans to move out of this town. He's basically the police officer who says, I'm only 2 days away from retirement.
It was really fun to watch people watch him die on Twitter. It was just so much like, Bob, no. Oh no, Bob. First it was Barb, now it's Bob.
Benny died in the first episode of season 1. So human characters with names that start with a B. Are not,
who's Benny
not
though?
Safe. Benny's the restaurant owner who gets shot in the head.
Oh yeah. Okay, I didn't know what his name was. Okay.
We get these new characters, and we get a lot of the characters who are returning, getting expanded roles. But I felt like that kind of came at the expense of main characters from the first season not having as much to do this season. You know?
Yeah.
I'll say I love Nancy and Jonathan, but they didn't have a huge impact on the story. And 11 and Hopper weren't as big of a presence. They're still there, but they, and Mike, who was as close to the main character of season 1 as you can get, had probably as much screen time as Lucas did in season 1, I felt like.
Yeah, it kind of felt like, I mean, that's true. So relatively season 2 is slower than season 1 and takes more time to dive into the conflict, but I was actually really pleased. It was like, because of the way we view these Netflix shows, this in a compressed amount of time all at once, it was like over a year ago that I saw these characters, and I saw them so quickly, but I like really enjoyed them. So it was really, so actually just seeing them go to school and talk about stuff was actually really delightful for a little bit. But I think it was kind of just like a switching of roles, which if you were to describe to me at the end of season 1, I would be skeptical. But I think it really speaks to the power, how well cast this show is, that we got to see the versatility of all of these actors who we were so blown away with in season 1. I think 11 kind of rotates into Mike's shoes in that season 1, Mike comes of age and Mike decides to help 11, decides who he is in the world morally. And 11 has to do that in season 2. She has to decide, I'm going to help my friends and not kill needlessly and just seek justice for myself, but help other people. I think Will rotates into 11's shoes which was a surprise because, I mean, Millie Bobby Brown was nominated for an Emmy for season 1 because she just had to do such emotionally intense scenes with the supernatural element of this torment. And now we see Will kind of in that role, suffering and being the key in solving the problem. I think there will be at least a campaign for him, and I think he deserves at least an Emmy nomination for season 2. He was great.
Yeah, I thought that was the biggest surprise of all, is that we knew they knocked it out of the park with the 4 main kids in the last season.
Yeah.
We didn't realize that they had a 5th knockout child actor in their back pocket the whole time, which is crazy to me, because I remember distinctly thinking after watching season 1, I was like, why do bad child actors even exist? Like, if they did
seriously,
if they were so
find that many good ones.
These kids, like, how I just don't understand how you even have bad child actors if talent like this exists at that age level.
Yeah.
And it was so surprising to me to see how well he portrayed pain and anger and
well, it was most impressive to see him go back and forth between the possession, but do it in this subtle way where his scene partners and us were in the dark. We could tell something was off, but we didn't know exactly when he was fully possessed and he was speaking as the monster and as himself, which was exactly how the conflict needed to build throughout the season. And like that credit goes to the actor because it's all visual.
Yeah, that was really cool. Also, the scene, I forget the episode number. Well, I'll stick a little blurb that tells you what it is. But the scene at the end of that one episode where they're flame throwing the tunnels and he falls to the ground, starts convulsing. His face is so
my gosh,
and haunting. And that was great.
Yeah, he was amazing.
We already talked about how Lucas has had a much more expanded role in this one. I thought that was great. But also Dustin does too.
We already knew we loved Dustin, but then Dustin just got more Dustin.
Yeah.
Ugh, Dustin, we can have a spin-off about Dustin's pets.
Yeah.
And I will watch it. Dustin, I will follow him to the ends of the earth.
He's just so great. He's so cute. And he's a good kid too. You know, he's doing a charity in Utah right now for kids with
the headquarters. It's in Mapleton, Utah. Yeah, he went there.
Oh, it's in Mapleton.
Yes, CDC.
Yeah, he says it in the first season. I don't.
Cyto. Yeah,
I'm not going to try to pronounce it.
It's a bone and tooth disorder.
Like he had a better. He had some expanded character depth in this one, because in the first season he's just a goofball and also a real person who tries to keep the group together. In this one, he's actually doing a little bit of work that's tearing the group apart by keeping Dart a secret from the group. Also, but
not maliciously though.
Yeah, not maliciously, just
right.
And you get a little more insight into the teenage life. I think something that's really insightful is that Max eventually chooses Lucas because Lucas just treats her like a normal person.
Right.
Whereas Dustin kind of tries to game her into being a girlfriend.
Yeah, well, and Dustin, I think an important revelation we also have about Dustin is that there's no father figure in Dustin's life, and he's also an only child. So, and because of how his mother also perfectly cast was like, as soon as
I loved him and his mother's relationship.
Amazing. But the way that she had raised him was basically just like, everything you do is amazing. You can do no wrong. So Dustin was really confident and felt like, yeah, I can use whatever I want, and Max will fall right in love with me, which then opens the door for Steve to enter Dustin's life and turn the world upside down in the best way.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing. Honestly, guys, I've fallen in love with the idea of a Steve babysitting the kids spinoff. You make it a weekly show where every week the kids have to deal with a new monster while Steve babysits them. And it's like, no, we can't go fighting monsters. And it'll be like Zombie Barb one week, and then it'll be like the Ghost of Muse another week. and like, just every week they have to deal with it. He's like trying to keep the kids from doing crazy schemes, but then suddenly some monster shows up and they have to fight it together. I think that'd be because
those two can do whatever they want. I will watch. I will watch a cooking show. I will watch a dating show. I will watch anything with Steve and Dustin.
Will you even watch like YouTuber vlog? Like, hey, it's your boy Dustin and Steve.
Yeah.
We're about to go
get
crazy hunting down some demodogs.
Or just them grocery shopping together and fighting about what groceries to get. That'd be a lot better than on ABC right now.
I loved that. It was it's so crazy how Steve became like the most loved character in the show, and how he takes Dustin under his wing. He teaches him his hair secrets. He really watches out for all the kids. I guess he needs to learn how to do better in fist fights because he's batting 0 for 2 so far.
Again, like this is another example of how we thought we had Steve figured out. He was just this antagonist in the first season that was pretty nasty, and he didn't. I mean, but they still gave him like this really great gradual transformation. He kind of, Barb's death, the whole dealing with the supernatural things that he encountered, and then being responsible for the children just softened him in the best way. So he was able to like really transform. And I think it was absolutely brilliant. Yet again, another example of how these showrunners really are utilizing their cast instead of just like chucking them out once they feel like they're done with them. They really get to know these actors and let the actors' personalities inform the characters from where to go. Because I don't think any of us anticipate Evil Steve having this kind of turnaround. I will watch Joe Keery in anything now. He's awesome.
I think also any conversation of Steve and Dustin needs to talk a little bit about the ending scene where Dustin shows up to the dance with the hair. It's one of the best laughing moments of the show, and also one of the most tragic because, I already mentioned they kind of have a good moral going on here where Lucas can get with Max because he just treats her like a normal person and Dustin doesn't. But you can also see how it hurts him a bit, like maybe his CDC and also his general goofiness makes him a lovable guy, but not a lovable guy for girls at that age. And so that scene where he gets turned down by those
when
girls,
he realizes it,
and he realizes that he's kind of alone and lonely and everyone else is dancing, and then Nancy decides to dance with him is honestly one of the most heartbreaking and sweetest scenes of the whole season.
Yeah, and apparently that was like one of the first images that went up on the storyboard when they were writing season 2 was Nancy dancing with Dustin at the Snowball.
Really? Huh.
Like they knew they were going to get there, and it was like solving a puzzle how to get to that.
I did see that the Duffer Brothers wanted to have 11 and Mike have their long-awaited reunion at the Snowball as well, which that would have been an interesting choice. I am not sure if I could have emotionally handled the Dustin, Nancy, Steve scene and the 11 and Mike reunion happening at once. I might not have been able to emotionally handle all of that at once.
Right. I think 11's entrance into season 2 could not have been more perfect.
You mean in the first episode or the second to last episode?
No. In the which episode? Episode 8, right? Or is it at the end of episode 7?
I believe it's episode 8.
Yeah, her entrance in episode 8 could not have been more perfect.
So I'll just say to our audience, like, one thing you really ought to be checking out is Movies with Mikey. He's a really good YouTube essayist, and he did a great episode on season 1 of Stranger Things. And one of the best insights that he brought up is that from the very first episode that Hopper's dealing with grief, and very quickly that it's because his daughter passed away. And they're saving that in their back pocket for that entire season until the very end when they're rescuing Will. And while they're rescuing Will, something you knew they could have done at any time but they chose to do at that moment is you have to watch Hopper watch his daughter die. And it's so sad. And you watch it because in the show people die, and you're scared that Will might not make it through, but he does. And it's so heartwarming that Hopper and Eleven get to have a father-daughter relationship that was robbed from them. And I really like that a lot.
And I think it's also important that it's not going well at the beginning, because it's kind of this clash of the Titans in terms of personality. They're both deeply wounded people that are having difficulty relating to people in general because of they both have severe PTSD. So there has to be this conflict, and then this journey back to realizing they need each other, and that it's actually really good for them to have each other at the end.
I thought it was great. I liked the argument they had and how they were trying to make it work, and that resolution. I thought all of that was great.
Yeah, I loved everything that they had together. It'll be interesting to see, because both of those actors were nominated for Emmys for season 1. It'll be interesting to see if they can pull it off again, because there wasn't quite as much range in season 2, but it still was phenomenal work by both of them, I think.
When you talk about 11, you kind of need to talk about the most controversial part of the season, episode 7, The Lost Sister.
Yes. It's the most consistent the most consistent through line in negative criticism of season 2. I will say, it was my least favorite episode of the season, but I certainly didn't dislike it. I didn't feel like I was slowing down, because I think I watched 6, 7, and 8 all in a row, and then I watched the very last one, like later that night, and I didn't feel like this like drop in attention that I think a lot of other people felt. It wasn't like, when I look back now, I can see that it was probably the slowest, and it contributed the least to the big picture, but thought it was very well done. And I feel like the journey that 11 goes on in that episode is very necessary, because 11 has been in a lab her whole life. She still doesn't really know how she relates to people. It didn't go well with Hopper. She needs to go on that journey and realize that she isn't just out for vengeance and justice, but that she values helping other people. And if she didn't go on this journey, there would be no reason for her to come back and close the gate.
I agree. I think a lot of the reason I didn't hate the episode is because I watched 7, 8, 9 all in a row. I might have been more annoyed if this was a week-to-week TV show. I would have been really annoyed if I had to go 2 full weeks waiting to find out what happened in that end of episode 6 cliffhanger.
Definitely.
But I also really understand the complaints too, because in season 1, there's a scene where Jonathan goes and confronts his dad. And something I really liked about that season of Stranger Things is, like, in a normal network TV show, that Jonathan trip to go find his dad and confront him would have been an entire episode. A whole episode wasted, where we have to follow him and he has to hang out with his dad for an afternoon and confront him and then learn something about himself and then go back. But it was just a side plot in I think like the 3rd episode. But in this season, like, we get one extra episode, but one of those episodes felt like that full episode side plot.
Yeah. But 11 is a lot more central to the plot than Jonathan is.
That's true. And I know a lot of this has got to be set up for season 3, but truth is, you can actually skip episode 7 and you won't really actually miss that much.
True. Yeah, I enjoyed it. For some reason, when you were talking about Jonathan, it made me remember how possibly the best line in the whole series happened when, I can't remember the investigator's name, but when
Murray
he asks, "How was the pullout?" That was pretty amazing.
How was the pullout?
That was amazing.
Yeah, that whole side plot also wasn't really necessary.
But it was a lot of fun, though.
But it was a lot of fun.
And I think we've earned these fun moments because we as a culture have fallen in love with these characters and memed them and referenced them on social media. And I feel like the monster, like, we're the monster now, and they're just feeding us. And it was fun.
How much money do you think they spent on music this season?
I think they tripled, if not quadrupled, the budget.
Yeah, because I swear there was a song every 10 minutes.
But they weren't like little songs. They were like iconic big hit songs that I'm sure cost a lot of money.
Yeah. Like putting Michael Jackson's Thriller in your trailer is not cheap.
That is not cheap, although it was the perfect song choice. Well, and also one of the something a lot of people talked about with season 1 was how good the score was, the synthetic.
I love the new score. I also really like how they tied in a lot of the old themes. I thought opening the season with the kids doing friend things and then playing the Friends track that played at the beginning of season 1 was great. And also they carried over Nancy and Barb's theme, the Upside Down theme. They carried on Mike and Eleven's theme. So let's talk a little bit about season 1 versus season 2. We don't really have I don't really know all the references to all the 80s shows. It's kind of hard to put those together. I'll sure we'll link to someone who's better at it. But the biggest thing they did is they went alien to aliens. I think that comparison works on multiple levels. Season 1 was about one monster, one alien. This season was about lots of aliens, little aliens. And they totally ripped the scene where the soldiers go in, they have headsets, they have video cameras, they've got radar, and then the people in the control room are like, oh, you're surrounded, and you watch them all die one by one. Like, that's ripped straight from Aliens. So Aliens might have been the first unnecessary sequel, but it's also one of the best. And I think Stranger Things does that same thing here, where maybe it was an unnecessary sequel, but it did it really well.
I think people are always, when something's as beloved as season 1 of Stranger Things, there's always going to be people that are disappointed because the expectations are just too high. But somehow my expectations were surpassed. I found it completely delightful. And I felt like I was also flexible and willing to go wherever they were willing to take me. I was fine with it being domestic and pedestrian and set in the hallways of the school. I was fine with it going back to the lab. I was fine with 11 going across the country. And I think that is just evidence of how rock solid these characters are, how well they're defined, and how the Duffer Brothers not only know how to create a very immersive and fully realized world, new with all this kitty campy nuance and charm, but also the way that they can dramatically structure those 10 episodes. It's just the combination of the format, the casting, the writing, all of it just works. And because for me, season 2 was just as delightful as season 1 in a different way, proves to me that the format and the creators and the people involved are the perfect formula.
Can you believe the Duffer Brothers originally wanted to direct it, but were turned down because they hadn't done anything?
Oh, funny.
Yeah, that is funny, right? And so they just turned around and was like, okay, we'll just create Stranger Things instead. The truth is, I'm a real sucker for the kids on bikes genre. I'm like, yeah, give me more kids on bikes in the 80s. I love it.
Yeah.
Where do you think they go from here? Because honestly, the way season 2 ended was so great. Like, it puts all the characters in really good places, except Winona Ryder's character.
Yeah, she's always like that.
I guess she's kind of, I feel pretty bad for her.
That's
she's
homeostasis for her.
She's definitely the biggest loser, but what I'm getting at is that I would be okay if I never had any more Stranger Things because it ended so well. But we were getting
Yeah, that's where I am too. It did wrap up perfectly. Every open end was closed, and season 1 also resolved itself pretty nicely. But they did open the door pretty wide. Whereas this time it was very hardly even there. It's there, but
quite literally too. They closed the portal. It's going to open back up, of course, somehow. But
that's the thing is, I also have mixed feelings about this because we made a video about this. But I have really strong feelings that TV dramas need to end. They need to have a solid ending. Yeah. And this feels like one. I don't want to say I want this to end as badly as I want 13 Reasons Why to end, but because I think because I trust these creators, the way I feel now as opposed to the end of season 1 is I know that the end is near, or at least it should be. There is an expiration date on this story, which is heartbreaking, but
Yeah,
I have a sense that they're going to know that.
because I think the
Yeah.
third season will be good if they. I mean, I trust that they can make a third season good. They'll make it a strong trilogy, but I'm not sure I want to follow Nancy and Steve to college, or
Right.
Mike and Dustin, Lucas, and 11 into high school. I'm not sure that will all work when they get too old, or it just won't be the
Right.
same.
That's the other reason they have an expiration date is these kids are changing so rapidly.
I mean, Dustin's got his teeth. I mean, have you seen those pearls?
Those are fake, but I think he's having surgery to get real ones.
No way, really.
Yeah. Actually, the thought that just came to my mind is that, they end it and then maybe like in 20 years, we get an amazing reboot.
Maybe. My hope would be that they end it and then go the anthology route and make another Stranger Things, but set it in a different town, different supernatural thing.
I guess I like this cast too much.
I wonder if the casting director can find a whole bunch of nobodies.
I know. Can they capture lightning in a bottle twice?
Yeah, they might be able to. Maybe there's a lot of talent behind the camera in Stranger Things.
Absolutely, definitely. I know this might just be us shouting into the void, and you're already talking about it with everyone. So this is more so for us than it is for you. So calm down.
Yeah, don't at me for my unpopular opinions.
Thanks for watching. Again, let us know if you have anything else you would like us to watch and respond to. And be sure to like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends.